Hi, first graders. I want to read you the rest of the Mercy Watson book. When we finish this Mercy Watson, we will be done with the whole entire Mercy Watson series. Now, I want to warn you, we have kind of a lot left in this book. So if you want to pause the video and take any breaks from it, totally fine. But I would like it if you watch the whole thing. So if you remember, Mercy and everyone, Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson, Stella, Frank, the Lincoln sisters, they're all at the movie. And remember, Leroy Ninker served them a bunch of popcorn. And Mercy was smelling butter everywhere. So, chapter 7. The smell of butter was absolutely everywhere. The smell of butter was driving Mercy wild. Where was the butter smell coming from? Mercy thought she would go and investigate. She leaped out of the convertible. She moved with purpose. Was there anything more heavenly than being hot on the trail of a true butter smell? Mercy did not think so. She trotted faster. Mercy Watson was a pig on a mission. Chapter 8. Hey now, said Alfred P. Tompkins. Speaking of pigs, isn't that a pig right there? Where? Said Francine Poulette. There, said Alfred P. Tompkins. He pointed at the pig that was trotting past the truck. The pig had its snout up in the air. The pig looked very happy. That, said Francine Poulette, is the pig from Deckawoo Drive. I have dealt with that pig before. I wonder what that pig is doing at the movies, said Alfred P. Tompkins. That's a good question, said Francine. That's the kind of question that only an animal control officer can answer. Fascinating, said Alfred P. Tompkins. Don't make any sudden movements, said Francine Poulette. She reached into the back of her truck. She grabbed her net. If you want to see an animal control officer in action, said Francine Poulette, follow me. Fascinating, said Alfred P. Tompkins. Simply fascinating. I'm right behind you. Chapter 9. Mercy stopped. Mercy sniffed. The smell of butter was very strong. The smell of butter was very near. The smell of butter was coming from the back seat of a station wagon. That's this kind of car. Mercy stuck her head in the window. She sniffed again. The smell of butter was coming from an extremely large bucket in the hands of a very small child. Mercy helped herself. The small child screamed, "Papa, Papa, a monster is eating my popcorn!" Mercy chewed. The popcorn was drenched in butter. It was delicious. A man stuck his face in Mercy's snout. "What do you think you're doing?" the man said. What did Mercy think she was doing? She thought she was enjoying a buttery snack. "Get out of here!" shouted the man. He gave Mercy a very forceful shove. Popcorn went flying everywhere. Mercy thought perhaps it was time to move on. Chapter 10. In the front row of the Bijou Drive-In, Officer Tomilello sat up straight in his seat. Officer Tomilello said, "Did you hear that?" Mrs. Officer Tomilello said nothing. "Was that a scream of distress?" said Officer Tomilello. "It sounded like a scream of distress," he answered himself. "Is someone in trouble?" Officer Tomilello asked. Mrs. Officer Tomilello said nothing. "It is very possible that someone is in trouble," Officer Tomilello answered himself. "Is it time for an officer of the law to step in?" Officer Tomilello asked. "Most definitely," he answered. Officer Tomilello put his badge around his neck. He got his bullhorn from the back seat. He kissed Mrs. Officer Tomilello goodbye. He said, "Am I off to make the world a safer place?" "I am," he answered himself. "I am most definitely off to make the world a safer place." Mrs. Officer Tamalello waved goodbye. Chapter 11. Mercy discovered that there was hot, buttered popcorn everywhere. Every car had big buckets of popcorn. Every car had open windows. The popcorn was buttery. The popcorn was crunchy. The popcorn was delicious. Mercy helped herself. She helped herself again and again. People screamed. People laughed. People fainted. Mercy kept eating. In the meantime, Mr. Watson and Frank returned to the convertible with several bottomless buckets of popcorn. Mrs. Watson was crying. "My darling, my dear," said Mr. Watson, "what is wrong?" "It's a tragedy," said Mrs. Watson. "I wouldn't exactly call it a tragedy," said Eugenia Lincoln. "Mercy is missing," said Stella. "Don't worry," said Mr. Watson. "We'll find her." "I'll wait here if you don't mind," said Eugenia. She helped herself to some hot buttered popcorn. Chapter 12. Leroy Ninker heard people screaming about monsters. Leroy Ninker heard people shouting about pigs. Leroy Ninker saw a woman with a net ran past the concession stand. "What are you trying to catch?" said Leroy Ninker. "A pig," said the woman with the net. "A pig?" said Leroy Ninker. "That's right," said the woman. "You're not going to catch livestock with a net," said Leroy Ninker. "What you need is a lasso. Yippee-yi-yo!" Mr. and Mrs. Watson and Stella and Frank and Baby shouted, "Mercy, mercy, mercy." "Should you remain calm?" Officer Tamalello asked. "You most definitely should remain calm." At the ticket counter, Beatrice Leoponi took off her glasses and put them back on. "Wonky," said Beatrice Leoponi. "Wonky in the extreme. Maybe it's some kind of emergency. Maybe I should call for help." Beatrice Leoponi adjusted her glasses. She picked up the phone. Beatrice Leoponi dialed the fire department. Chapter 13. Mercy was having a wonderful time. She had consumed a large amount of buttered popcorn, and now people were chasing after her. Mercy loved a chase. She ran faster. She kicked up her heels. "Gotcha!" shouted Francine Poulette. Francine Poulette netted Officer Tamalello. "Yippee-yi-yo!" shouted Leroy Ninker. He lassoed Francine Poulette. "Fascinating," said Alfred P. Tompkins. "Simply fascinating." There was the sound of a siren. There was a flash of a light. A fire truck pulled into the Bijou. "Things seem to be out of control," said the fireman named Ned. "It's the movies," said the fireman named Lorenzo. "They make people crazy." First graders, we know these two. "Actually," said a man who was standing next to Ned, "I think the pig is making people crazy." "Holy smokes, I know that pig," said Lorenzo. "It's that toast-loving pig from Decawoo Drive." "I'll tell ya," said the man standing next to Ned. "This is better than any movie I've ever seen. It's all been fascinating, simply fascinating." "I guess it's time for us to come to the rescue," said Ned. "We should do what only firemen can do," said Lorenzo. Ned and Lorenzo took off running. Ned and Lorenzo ran very fast. Ned and Lorenzo caught up with Mercy. "Hey," said Ned, "how about some toast?" "Yes," said Lorenzo, "how about some toast with a great deal of butter?" Mercy stopped running. Mercy sat down. Mercy thought very hard. Toast sounded like an excellent idea to her. Toast always sounded like an excellent idea to her. Ned sat down next to Mercy. He put his arm around her. "Oh," said Mrs. Watson, "you found her. How will we ever be able to thank you for helping us locate our darling, our dear?" said Mrs. Watson. "Well," said Ned, "I'm a little hungry." "Toast would be good," said Lorenzo. "Toast," said Mrs. Watson. "I would love to make some toast. Who else would like some toast?" Okay, there's all of our friends, each and every character that we've come to know in the Mercy books, and they're all eating toast together. "We never did get to see that movie," said Stella. "I wonder if it ended happily," said Frank. "Well," said Mrs. Watson, "here we are, all of us together, and we're all eating toast," said Mr. Watson. "I can't imagine a happier ending than that," said Mrs. Watson. "It's the happiest ending possible," said Baby Lincoln. "It's almost like a love story." "It is a love story," said Mr. Watson, "and it's very inspirational," said Mrs. Watson. And that is the end of the 6th and final book.